You are welcome to the session on identifying priority customer segments under the prepare phase of the toolkit. We shall start by introducing market segmentation in the Nigerian financial services industry and explore the human account data to determine how your target customer groups is represented in the identified segments. This session will introduce market segmentation in the Nigerian financial services industry and take you through the step-by-step process of using customer segmentation to identify segments that match your opportunity. We shall explore your target group's representation in the THA segments and differences between this group and the Nigerian population. Finally, we shall have a practical hands-on demo on using the simplified dataset to identify segments that match your opportunity and extract insights that may inform design. Market segmentation helps financial service providers to develop innovative financial products and services. FSP use market segmentation to identify the opportunity space and target customer groups and gain an initial understanding of customers and the markets. With market segmentation, FSP develop desirable financial products. These are products that meet customers' needs, motivation, and aspirations. FSPs are also able to assess the viability of the market as they use the segmentation to determine a realistic estimate of future revenues. FSP then combine customer desirability and market viability insights with their organizational strategies and capabilities to bring innovative financial products to the market. Dalberg and her team developed a customer segmentation framework for the Nigerian financial services market in 2018. The framework uses the human account, which is a data set from a sample of 1,200 respondents across Nigeria and over 600,000 data points. The customer segmentation framework presents financial lives of adult Nigerians across three dimensions: demographics, behavior, and psychometrics. The human account provides evidence-based and actionable insights of current and potential financial service customers in Nigeria. We are working on using the EFINA dataset to replicate the customer segmentation framework. The human account takes a bottom-up approach to segmentation. Traditionally, FSP have categorized groups by basic demographic variables and top-down approaches. To identify the human account segments, the team used numerous data analytic techniques to identify clusters with similar demographics, behavioral, and psychometric characteristics. These clusters combine the socioeconomic characteristics of consumers with how they act and why they act that way. This results in more natural segments that truly share characteristics. This type of segmentation respects the differences within population subgroups and provide FSP design teams with more realistic and actionable data and consumer profiles. The result of the segmentation is 6 segments with different characteristics that create opportunities for FSP engagement. Traditional believers are rural, religious married women, and the poorest segment, having significant stress with expenses and frequent emergencies. Digital youths are mostly young, mid to high income, highly educated, and the wealthiest segments, but experience the highest income volatility. Resilient savers are middle income, religious married men, and are the most active savers and the financially healthiest of the rural segments. Dependent individualists are mostly young, rural married women who are self-employed or farm with low and volatile income, which makes it difficult to plan and meet expenses, save toward goals, and build an asset base. Confident optimists, on the other hand, are mostly young, urban, tech-savvy, married women with the second highest income and relatively low income volatility. They are frequent and deliberate savers and effective planners. Finally, questioning cultivators are mostly middle-aged, low income, poorly educated rural married men who farm. They struggle to cover expenses, though their robust use of informal financial groups and high rate of land and livestock ownership strengthen their financial resilience. For more details on this segment, please download the detailed report from our website. It's time for practice. I shall take you to the step-by-step process of using the simplified datasets to explore differences between your group and the Nigerian population. We shall also explore your target group's representation in the 6 human account segments and identify segments that match your opportunity and extract insights that may inform design. I have the simplified dataset opened. It is a dataset of 1,200 respondents across Nigeria, from the first respondent here in row 2 to the last respondent in row 1,201. So let's go back to the first respondent in row 2. The data was collected in 2017. You can also use other nationally representative access to finance data. We have used a FINA dataset which has close to 30,000 respondents in our other analysis. Data collected from these respondents include demographics, behavioral, and psychometric data. For example, age is a demographic variable, gender demographic, marital status demographic, education demographic, socioeconomic status demographic, even phone ownership can be classified as a demographic variables. We also have variables measuring their behavioral attitudes. For example, variables that measure their saving attitude, the respondent borrowing attitude, money transfer attitude, emergency management attitude, their attitudes towards old age, and so on. In the same manner, we have variables that measure their psychometrics. That means why this respondent behave the way they behave. For example, variables measuring trust, trust in banks or in financial institutions, and their trust in people, dependability, loss aversion, openness, debt orientation, locus of control, impulsivity, and so on and so forth. These are all contained in this data set. First, let's use this data set to explore differences between your target group and the Nigerian population. Your priority target group can be women, youth, rural dwellers, farmers, or any other group that is your own priority. Let's look at women, for example. We can use this data set to determine what sets women apart from an average Nigerian along demographics, behavioral, and psychometric dimension. We use pivot table. So we have the Excel workbook already open. So let's add a new worksheet, worksheet 1. So we can add pivot table. Let's just go to insert. So insert pivot table on this or in this worksheet. Under select a table or a range, click on the up arrow. Then let's go to the data set. This is the sheet containing the data set. Select everything. Control A will select all the data. Then you can click on this and click OK. So the pivot table is already inserted in sheet 1. So we have the right hand side with containing all the variables that were captured in the data set. So and the data collected for all the variables can also be accessed through this pivot table. For example, in terms of demographic, we can explore whether women are more in rural areas, whether they are poorer than average Nigerians, whether they are less educated or more educated, whether they own less number of mobile phones, and so on and so forth. We'll do that one from this right hand side. So we have 4 quadrant filters, columns, rows, and values on this right hand side. Then you can select a variable of interest. For example, since we are analyzing women, so we have gender here. You can also search for the variable you are looking for. This respondent gender here, we'll put it in the row quadrant. Then we can see the display on the left hand side of the screen, my own left hand side of the screen. Then you can now analyze women. For example, along location. So let's search for variable that measures location, rural or urban location. So we have it here. We'll move it to the column. If you move it to the column, you see what happens on the left hand side. Then the value, you can also move this, since this is what we are measuring, you move it to the value quadrant. So you can see what we have here. We have the breakdown of 1,200 respondents for which we collected data for. You can see 680 of them are rural dwellers, while 520 are urban dwellers. We can express this one in terms of in percentage terms. Just select, right click, and go to show value as percentage of row total here. You can see, so this shows that from this data set, 57% are rural dwellers, 43 are urban dwellers. But when you look at for women, the distribution of women, that is also show that we have more women in rural areas than in urban areas. We can also analyze their age distribution. For example, what's your age? So if you move this one here, we can move this one here. You can also see the age distribution here. So that means we have more young women than the national average. For example, age in the age group 18 to 24, we have about 27% of all women falling within this age group compared to 22% in the general Nigerian population. Even 25 to 34, we can see them here. That means women, we have, in terms of age distribution, we have younger women than older women in Nigeria. So we can also look at their socioeconomic status. You can look at their smartphone ownership. For example, let's look at their smartphone ownership. You can also move that one. Let's move the smartphone ownership. You can see personally owned for women is less when compared to the general adult population in Nigeria. This is just for us to analyze the demographics, the age distribution, location, socioeconomic status, even their marital status, phone ownership, digital capability, and so on and so forth. In the same manner, we can also use this sheet or pivot table or create a new set of worksheets to analyze their behavior. For example, the saving attitude of this respondent. Let's look at savings. This is we are moving to behavior now. So savings, any channels. Let's remove this one and put savings there. So we can see in terms of saving, we can see that daily, for example, women save more than an average Nigerian. So you can see, you can also go to borrowing. You can go to emergency management. For example, emergency management. For example, imagine that you have an emergency and you need to pay bills. How possibility of them paying their bills in times of emergency. Let's see what the distribution is like. You can see not at all possible. People that find it difficult to pay bills, when to pay emergency bills, we can see 8% for the national average, but for women, the women average is 10%. That means it's more challenging for women to pay emergency bills. Insight from this one will be very helpful when we are developing our products and the type of products to develop for women. In this case, you can also use this for other target groups, the youth, the rural dwellers, just name farmers, any target group that is of interest to you. You can also go to psychometrics. For example, in terms of their openness, let's go to openness. Are women more open than the general Nigerian population? Let's look at what the data is saying. The data is saying yes, that the data is saying that women are more open than the general adult population in Nigeria. What about impulsivity? Let's also look at impulsivity. Are they more impulsive? No, they are less impulsive than the general adult population. This tells us some story from inside from this one can be very, very helpful. When you want to give out loan, that means for women, because they are less impulsive, that means is more likely to make their loan repayment, even less likely to default on loan repayment when compared to the general adult population in Nigeria. So it's just looking at the three dimensions. So we can also use this one to determine financial products and services that, like I said, that are appropriate for these groups, for women or for any other group of interest, and even the delivery channel, marketing and messaging that will be appropriate for these groups. So we can follow the same process for your own priority group or for your own target group. That means the group that you are actually interested in. Just follow the same process. Analyze the demographics, analyze the behavioral, also analyze the psychometric variables to actually gain insight into what kind of product can I deliver, can I design or develop for this group? What delivery channels, what messaging can I use? Would the saving be more appropriate for this one? Would the payments be more appropriate for them? Would be digital, even the channel, would be digital channel more appropriate? Well, even the messaging, even the marketing, all this from all this one, you can use the data set to gain valuable insight into your own product development effort. So you can also use pivot table to explore the data set for any group, like I said. So and also for the six THA segments that we already have. Remember, what we've just done is the general population, general analysis. We are not looking at individual segments. This is just talking about women versus the rest of Nigeria, youth versus the rest of Nigeria, rural dwellers versus the rest of Nigeria. But looking at the six THA segments that we discussed earlier in the slides, you can also now even take a deep dive using this same process. For example, I can go to this. Let's search for THA. Remember, we have six THA segments. You see them here. So I can put this one here. Exact. So that means in the row quadrant, I have the THA segment and I also have the respondent gender. So you can see female under confident optimist. You can see female under dependent individualist. In fact, you can see the women under each and every of the THA segment, the six of them. So you can now also go through the same process. For example, let's even go through start with demographics. For example, location, rural, let's remove this impulsivity, let's look at rural. Generally, the rural population, according to this data, is 57% of adult population, 57% adult population in Nigeria stayed in rural areas. But you can see for confident optimists, 36% of confident optimists stay in rural areas. That means less than the national average. That means these people, this particular segment, they are more of urban dwellers than rural dwellers. Unlike dependent, the same thing anyway, dependent individualists too. Okay, this one is the opposite actually. Dependent individualists, we have more of them staying in rural areas when compared to urban areas. So you can see the distribution of this THA segment, and you can now also now look at your own group. Remember, we are analyzing women. The women that are confident optimists, are they more of rural dwellers or more of urban dwellers? The data is telling us that they are more of rural dwellers than urban dwellers. Let's go to traditional believers. You can see from here they are more of rural dwellers than urban dwellers. So that's in terms of location. You can also look at in terms of smartphone ownership. When you go to smartphone ownership, those that personally own, you can see the national average is 37%. You can see confident optimists, they look like they are more, they are richer when compared to the national average, because about 65% of them own mobile smartphone actually. So you can see the women even under the confident optimism that 63% of them own mobile phone. When compared to traditional believers, you can see that this definitely are poor. In fact, the most likely the poorest group. We can use the SES to confirm that one because only 11% of them own smartphones. You can see now if you want to develop a product that you want them to access digitally or through their smartphone, you can see this might not be the right group of people to develop that product for. Let's also look at the socio-economic status, SES quintile. You can see this show that how poor the poverty level among these segments. You can see the one that you can see this look like the richest. You can see in the upper socio-economic status, you can see you have more of them when compared to traditional believers, where you can see less of them in percentage terms that are in the upper socio-economic status quintile, that is SES4 and SES5. This demographic, you can perform the same analysis for behavioral, for example, savings any channels. Let's look at saving any channel. You can now come here. When you look at saving any channel, those are saved daily. You can see the highest that save daily, about 9%. Probably that's why they are resilient savers. You have them saying a sizable percentage of them saving daily and even monthly. So, but compared to a group like this, where you only have about 7% of them saving daily, or even this one, depending individually, they don't very less of them, about 5% of them save daily. You can use the same process to look at their borrowing attitude, use the same process to look at their attitudes towards old age, and also use the same process to analyze their psychometric variables. So from all this one, we can say what insight can we gain from various women groups in these 6 segments along demographic, behavioral, and psychometric dimension. This enables us to drill down to specific women group in each of the segments for more targeted product development and delivery. So we've used a model to analyze demographics, behavioral, and psychometric insight from the 6 segments, and we have provided design opportunities for each of the segments. So this insight, we have another model that we've developed. So we've extracted insight from this data set, insight that we have walked you through. We've used a model to extract this insight and to now develop design opportunity. From this one, you can now say that, oh, payments, when you look at payments, if you want to develop or design payment product for any of these group, you have to consider whether they are the one that send or they are the one that receive. For example, in this particular group, you see more traditional believer being at the receiving end than at the sending end, where this confident optimists, they send more than what they receive. So this guide us, and also the model also shows us the ones that save more, the ones that savings, even in terms of saving, whether it's fixed saving that is more appropriate for them or it's group saving that is more appropriate for them. In terms of borrowing, even which one is more appropriate to the group that we want to look at. Is it low value with collateral borrowing, or with medium value borrowing, or high value borrowing, whether with collateral or not collateral? Also the insurance, which, because we also use that model to determine the type of insurance product that will be more appropriate for your target groups. You can also explore this data set on your own, combine it even with your own custom made model to determine products that are more appropriate or that are most appropriate to the target group that you are actually considering. Insurance, is it crop insurance, is it vehicle insurance, is it asset insurance, is pension product even applicable to any of this or to our own target group or not? So you can use this analysis combined with a kind of a model to actually determine the appropriate product and even the delivery channel. So you can visit our website to download the full report. So when you download the full report, you can even go through the full report again in combination with the model which we use for as our design opportunity models, and for where we use to extract to analyze the extracted insight. You can go to our website, download the full report, combine it with with the models and your own analysis to actually determine the appropriate products and even the delivery channel, the marketing, and the messaging that are applicable and that are most appropriate for your own target group. So kindly use this insight and the process we've highlighted here to reflect on ways your team could use this data to refine your opportunity statement. So I believe by the time you look at this process again and you also have a hands-on practical with this one, by the time you go through this data set again, try to analyze this data set on your own, you'll be able to even reflect on the insight and probably even refine that your opportunity statement. So we discuss more of this one in the live session. So I believe we've been able to, I believe now we can have confidence to use this data set to be able to analyze even any data set. Even some of us can even use other data sources, use pivot table, analyze any access to finance data set that we have for us to be able to generate insight and be able to use that insight in our product development effort. Thank you for your time.